But all right. Well, I know you put in some of the comments on what to
Well,
do,
we
but
got you in the front
let me
seat
just
now,
I'll
Michelle. You're
start from
ready
the
to roll.
beginning for those who have joined us. We are going to be talking about how to use strategy to beat stagnation in your business. That is a big topic, and especially in this economic downturn, it's just been very cyclical, unpredictable. Everyone's been having a lot of problems with just trying to figure out how to grow their business during this time. And I talk a lot with CEOs and small business owners just to understand how does that look like. I'm a CEO and a business owner as well, so I understand. I'm in people's shoes. And when Dan and I kind of connected, we were thinking of ways to provide value to everyone out here, and really, we came with kind of the idea of strategy, because I know that Dan consults and he's very strategic with partnering with his clients. I'm more focused on how do you stop working in your business so that you can work on your business. And that is something that I've struggled with for so many years. I would say maybe even decades. So I'm probably a veteran in this, and I can share my story in that. So for those who have just joined, feel free to jump in. Let us know where you're coming from. I am checking the comments in our LinkedIn Live. And we do have a team that is supporting us in terms of any questions and comments that are coming through. So we will see your comments and we will try to answer as soon as we can. But just know that we are definitely monitoring that. All right. Well, I will go ahead and get started. Let me share my screen and we'll go from there. Can you see my screen, Dan? Okay, perfect. So, welcome. I'm going to focus more on how we can stop working on
Yes, you're good
in
to
our
go.
business and on our business. And basically when I say that, it's really how do you move the needle on your revenue, your sales. So mine is more focused on how to use strategy to build growth within your business. I don't think I made a formal introduction, but my name is Michelle Kuo. I am CEO of Jump Search Recruiting and VA. So I run two businesses here, and again, veteran in the space. So totally get what people are going through, and whether you're a solopreneur, executive, or a small business owner. So, want to start off. There's questions for you, and for those who have recently joined, just letting you know, feel free to jump in with comments. I'm curious, does any of this resonate with you? So, put in the comments. Do you feel like you're working more than 40 hours a week? Or maybe you are working 40 hours and you don't feel like it, or you do feel like it. I know I was. Do you spend too much time on administrative minutia? So that includes scheduling, social media, marketing, documentation, SOPs, website creation. I know I've done that too in the past. So I'm very, very guilty of a lot of that. And then the last question is, do you wish you had an extra 10 hours a week to spend on your personal life? So extra is the key here. It is not, I have 10 hours. It's, do you feel like you have extra time to spend on your personal life, whether it's with family or friends or just kind of enjoying your life? So again, put in the comments. We'd love to hear from you and see if any of this resonates here. And I think someone did mention more like 60 hours. That's a lot. so, um, So these are common challenges faced by solopreneurs, executives, and small business owners. And again, these are three that I'm highlighting because these are the ones that I've seen. Number one being juggling multiple tasks at once. So as a small business owner, you're faced with managing multiple tasks. A lot of times you're wearing multiple hats and you kind of feel like you're drowning. A lot of times you're overwhelmed, you're drowning in all the things that you have to work on. And the hats could be research based, sales, marketing, operations, finance, back office administration, scheduling. There's a huge variety of things that small business owners are dealing with on a day to day. And then the second piece is missed opportunities. So when you're so focused on managing all those tasks, you don't have the time and bandwidth. Yeah, I would say a huge piece is the bandwidth in managing or even thinking about what are new ventures? How do you move the needle on your business? And when I talk about that, I'm talking about setting up your marketing operations, your sales, your business development outreach, lead gen. Those are things that usually and typically move the needle on the business. And so a lot of people don't think about that. They're just kind of ad hoc in terms of let's focus on these tasks that are day to day. And you feel like you're productive because you're spending 40 hours or 60 hours working on things that you feel like are productive. But at the end of the day, is it really moving the needle on your business? And so a lot of times business owners, they don't go after new ventures. They don't go after partnerships or new sales or expansion. And those are really things that do move the needle on your business. And so the third thing I would say is hiring. So I've been in the recruiting business for 15 years. I will tell you, I've done a lot of hiring onshore. And most of my clients have been startups as small as 10 employees. We've seen it hyper growth stage to a couple hundred. Some of them have gone up to hundreds and even thousands, 5,000 employees. So I've seen the kind of the whole gamut. And I will tell you that there's always a rising cost of labor. Every year, I have seen at least a 10, sometimes 15% increase in salaries. And when you hire onshore, you're competing with people who need raises, salary. And so that is one of the things that I've seen is hiring is always an issue and a problem. Right now, it's an economic downturn, so you may not have any issues there. But as the economy turns around, you're going to also see a talent shortage. And so people compete with talent. And that's when the rising cost of labor goes up and salaries skyrocket. All right. So a little bit about us. And I didn't do much of an intro in the beginning, but I want to give you a little background on me. So I have been recruiting for 15 years through Jump Search Recruiting. We worked with many companies. So as you can see, some of them were tiny. So Qualtrics, I think they were about 100 employees at the time. They're now 5,000 and they IPO'd. We worked with Recursion Pharmaceutical that also IPO'd. Some of them you'll see are smaller companies. And then Lucid also, it's a tech company here in Utah, and they've exploded, and they're a couple hundred, I think maybe 1,000 employees. Some that you might recognize like Chatbooks and Chargeback, Thumbtack. So these are all startups that we've worked with. We've had a lot of experience working with a lot of mostly tech companies, but we've also worked with a lot of B2C, e-commerce, consumer-based, and hardware. So we have pretty wide range of experience there. So I want to share a little bit about my story. And there was a big transformation turning point for me. And this is kind of the reason why I'm so passionate about the VA side, which stands for virtual assistant. So my story, I started out, again, I've been running my business for 12 years, and I had always been in my business. So I loved recruiting. I was super passionate about it, but I was doing all the scheduling, all the coordination. I would create job descriptions. I would post them up. So all the administrative stuff that you would think a team would handle, I actually did that. I have actually also hired. So at one point we were growing a lot. I started hiring onshore. I would hire sourcers. I would hire recruiters. And I went through a phase. We went through contractors, interns, and full-time. So we've done a lot of different things, and we tried a lot. A lot of them did not work out. I also offshored our sourcing to India and just did not get the results that I was looking for. I got really frustrated. So then I ended up feeling like, okay, hands up in the air. No one's going to understand how to do the job better than me. And so what I realized was there was a complete fear of letting go. I could not let go of just like the little details of, how do you create my website, and just like the little fine points and making sure my spacing was all right. Those are things that you shouldn't be worried about as a CEO and a small business owner. That's not your job. And I did. That's the problem. I was in this complete control. And I will say I'm kind of an ex-control freak. So that's why when I say I've been in those shoes, I know. And a lot of times I was DIY. I was like, I'll figure it out. I will build out the system. And it will take me weeks to do that. At the end of the day, I realized that I didn't focus on moving the needle on the business. So I had not set up any marketing systems. I didn't do any sort of lead gen, business development, email drip campaign. So none of that I had ever thought about because I was all referral based. But as the economy changes, it kind of forces you to change. And so that was the one of the things that I realized I needed to start building it out. And when I started building out my marketing operations and sales, that would take me weeks. I'd be dragging my feet. And this is stuff that should be taking a few days to a week. That took me about 2, 3 weeks, maybe a month, and I still didn't get it done. And so at that point, I was burnt out. I was working more than 40 hours a week. And the turning point was just there was so much pain. And I hired my first executive assistant. She's been amazing. So if you see all the LinkedIn Live, you see LinkedIn Live, you see the images, you see this presentation deck. She has created this all for me. And of course, I put out kind of the process and the operations on how it should be done. But she has been amazing in terms of creating all our SOPs, our marketing materials, the website, Canva, video editing. And so I realized that this delegation, I started shifting into more of a delegation mindset, away from fear of letting go and controlling to more of a delegation mindset. And that delegation mindset is huge. It's a huge needle on, it changes the trajectory of your business. And so as long as she can do 70, 80%, or the person that you hire can do 70, 80% better than you, it is worth outsourcing. And so it's been a game changer. I will say that it's something to think about if you are currently doing everything yourself and your DIY. Think about what your time is worth. So I did send out a worksheet. I know a lot of you probably might not have seen it right away, but it is a worksheet for you on what is your time worth. So this is something I would say you can do on your own time. You can also even take a piece of paper and kind of write down some of the things that think about the activities that you're doing. So I'll kind of walk you through it. And then again, I will attach it as a PDF post event so that you have it. You can print it out and you can start kind of doing this worksheet. So it's kind of a scorecard for you. And so when you look at this, think about all the low value tasks. I added numbers to it. And this is basically the number is what you would pay somebody to do those tasks for you. And then when you look at low, medium value tasks, I put a number to it. Again, you could put whatever number you want, but I put 75 an hour. Medium high tasks, I put down as 150 an hour. And then high value tasks, those are really the things that will move the needle on the business. So 200 an hour could be up to 300, 600 an hour. And those are things you definitely don't want to outsource. Those are things that as a small business owner or a CEO, you need to manage and own. So let me go into, so here's a couple samples, and that'll give you a good idea of like what I mean by low value tasks and the other ones. So low value tasks are like somebody who cuts your hair, mows your lawn, cleans your toilet, makes deposit in your bank, does data entry, schedules and coordinates things for you, creates events and puts it on your calendar. So those are things that are very administrative and they're worth 20 an hour. The next thing is low medium value. When you look at video editing, I'm talking about somebody who's a specialist. So they may have a degree after their name. They're specialized in that space. And so they can help you with the video editing, manage your projects, graphic design, doing your website, creating content for you. So those are 75 an hour tasks. And the next one, so medium high tasks. So these are ones that are a little bit more strategic. So as we go down the line on the bottom of the sheet, you'll see that medium high tasks is definitely more strategic. I would say if you were to start hiring, you want to think about having a head of VP or director level person take over these. So it's like recruiting, head of marketing, bookkeeping, planning out your sales, your campaigns, PR, or interviewing your building out your interview process. So those are all things that someone on your team can take off. If it's just you, you're managing it, but just know what your time is worth. The other thing is that if you are like, hey, I'm going to DIY a low, medium value task, sometimes it takes you twice the time to stumble and fall through those and learn. And so when you do that, sometimes if you double your time, think about, let's say a low medium value task is 75 an hour, you're actually doubling your time. So that ends up being 150 an hour just to do those tasks. So when I look at all this, I'm thinking, okay, how many hours am I spending a week on all these areas? And so if you can calculate how many hours you're doing, talk about all the activities, you can look at, and I would recommend, highly recommend the low value all the way to the medium should be tasks that should be delegated and offboarded off of your plate. Because again, as a CEO or somebody that runs their own business, typically your time is worth more than 200 an hour or 150 an hour. At the very bottom, so these are high value tasks. As I mentioned, as a CEO, you should be running those, and they are strategic. So there are new partnerships, they're looking at new ventures, new products, new services, partnerships, speaking engagements, things that really build and move your business and really grows that. And those are things that are very difficult to outsource. You can, but I don't know that, until you get to a point where your business is up and running, then you can start to kind of look at building out some of the systems and processes in place. And those typically, the processes and systems are usually in the medium to high task. So I will stop there. I don't know if there are comments or questions, and I can always get back to them as we go. But and I will also check out the chat if anybody has any questions here. If you don't have any questions, again, we will also open up at the end after Dan has kind of shares his presentation, and we can also answer questions. So for me, I'll mention this kind of the solution. So one of the things that after you kind of go through the scorecard worksheet, then you can really think about things that that you should be delegating that you currently are doing. And at that point, I have started to look at leveraging virtual assistants. So all our virtual assistants are in the Philippines. And one of the big takeaways is really the onshore cost versus offshore. So I've done a lot of hiring for onshore clients. And onshore, again, mostly we're tech startups here, and they were small. So a lot of times they were looking at onshore because they had to build their team internally. And I would recommend that for strategic hires, people who can kind of do high level thinking that can help you move the needle. But when you look at the cost efficiency, offshore VAs start at $12 an hour. And if you hire somebody who's an onshore EA, they're typically starting around 40 an hour. And if you hire a social media expert, that's usually about 50 an hour. So translating wise to a yearly salary, 40 is about 80K. So you can double that. 50 is maybe about 100K. But I think in terms of a strategic hire that's onshore, you're probably looking between the 80K to 120, 150K. If you could get somebody to do kind of the minutia, the administrative, you're looking at about 24,000 a year. It's a huge cost saving from 24 to 100K. The next thing is there's a scalability factor to this. So you can quickly scale operations. So if you have a business that basically fluctuates throughout the year, there's high times, there's low times, you're uncertain about your headcount, because if you hire somebody who's full-time and there's uncertainty in terms of the amount of work, there's always a flexibility of scalability with VAs. We typically can find somebody within 1 to 2 weeks, plug and play in your business, as long as you have operations and process set up. And if you don't, we can help you with getting that set up, preparing you on how we do it. And so the search is usually about 1 to 2 weeks. If you do onshore, normally we have seen 3 to 4 months to hire somebody for a full-time. At times we have seen 6 months because you have a VPC level role, and we've done it all. So, if you have any questions about whether it's a VA or a onshore hire, we're happy to help. We can do both. And I have my team members that can help answer any questions. We also have a VA community. So we can tap into kind of a very large, wide community in the Philippines. And then number 3, I would say, is a highly skilled workforce. So there's a huge cultural alignment with the Philippines culture and how they work with the US and European culture. They understand professionalism, etiquette, emails, how to, be on time, all that. So there's a lot of cultural alignment. The other thing is they're highly educated. A lot of them do go to universities. They're very educated and highly skilled. So you can't beat that. The other piece is that they're flexible with the time zones. So if people are like, oh, well, will they work my time zone? They're really flexible. Some of them actually prefer graveyard shift in their time zone, which is during the day in the US and Europe. And lastly, I would say, culturally, they're known to be hardworking, loyal, and honest. So when you find somebody that you love, they will stay on. And it's just amazing. So we don't have people kind of jumping ship and running off and looking for the next thing. And that was something that I found as a problem in India, because people would be getting a salary and then they would jump onto their next contract and try to renegotiate their rate. And they're constantly shopping around trying to find a better rate. So you will have people who will leave. They're not loyal. And then when they produce, they're not really thinking. They're just kind of data entry. And so that's what I thought. It was kind of a misconception myth when I hired offshore, was that Filipinos don't really, anybody out offshore doesn't think. But I will tell you, it's very different. They can think, they can do some strategic work as long as you train them and you get them up to speed and you have an operations system in place. So sample operational tasks that a VA can do. Currently we have ours trained in content creation. We are heavily using AI. So I know a lot of business owners are saying, hey, I'm behind on AI. I don't even know where to start. That is something that we can help with. And it's not just simple prompting. It is, here's the prompt. Here's how we can customize your ChatGPT, your chatbot to produce content in your voice. And that takes a little bit of training. And so that's something that we have already built internally and we can help with on the AI side. But they can help with social media management, email, calendaring, graphic design, project management, SEO, as well as personal travel arrangements and your personal stuff. So you can kind of see the VAs as your executive assistant, and they can do all your personal stuff or your professional stuff as well as your personal stuff. And that can include ordering meals, booking restaurant reservations, planning your vacation, your trips. And here's a sample of all the tools that we have trained our virtual EAs in. Some of them, there's additional tools that we have. Others we have not, but we can help you with any of the trainings. And again, LinkedIn, I don't think is on here, but I do know that we do a lot of LinkedIn social media, as well as even hosting this event. I know that we will have future products on getting yourself on podcasts so that we can record your podcast, your webinars, slice up that information, slice up the videos, and then post it on social media for you. We can also create long form content. So those are packages that we are developing. So if you have any questions about it, feel free to reach out to us. That'll help with your personal branding, your marketing, your social media. That is something that we are pretty highly specialized in. And if you want to get in touch, so I provide a free discovery assessment call. I will send a link in our post-event page or email to you all. And you're welcome to also connect with me on LinkedIn. And my email address is on here as well. So you will get all my information. And to book a call, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And this is kind of the end. I wanted to see if anybody has any questions. Feel free to drop it in the LinkedIn chat. And if there are no questions, I will likely move this over to Dan. Let me go ahead and actually stop this presentation, and then you can present.
Great. Thank you, Michelle, for that info. I like Eric put a comment in there too that VAs don't cost you money, they help you make money. And, with the theme of today being how to use strategy to beat stagnation, to free yourself up, to free ourselves up as solopreneurs or small business owners from some of that more administrative or lower value work, and lower value in the sense of like you showed, like what you might pay somebody for it. It's still important. It's got to be done. But if you can free yourself up from those types of things, either through a virtual assistant or some of the tools I'm about to show, it can then open you up to spend time on things that are going to bring more value back to your business, more strategy. So the first step there, thank you, Michelle, was about one way to do that, to get yourself freed up to do more strategy work. I'm going to click share in just a second here. And I think it's going to do the infinity mirror for like 2 seconds. Bear with me. But then I will get into my deck. So Michelle mentioned, a few different ways to work through and think about strategy, and then focused a lot on the hiring side and what hiring strategically can help you do and free you up to do. With my business, I do strategy and operations consulting, and I like to talk about helping people calm their chaos. I think we know as small business owners, as solopreneurs, there's a lot going on a lot of the time. And I have a background in operations and strategy in the corporate world, but I was drawn more towards the small business passion space, wanted to be where I was more passionate and working with people who, like you, are probably very passionate about what you do. And then also did a lot of like personal research on, well-being and effective proven strategies. I'm really big on that. I try not to just talk at you with things, but show you proven things that help and work. So I don't know if you can send an emoji, a thumbs up, a hand clap or something, if you felt or said any of these things as I go through them. I always have a million things to do. I'm always busy, but never get ahead. I have a million ideas all the time. What should I do next? I think a lot of people I work with are those visionary founder types where they've got their passion business. They've got a million ideas all the time. I love working with those people because they're exciting. They're energizing to be around. But I know it can be a challenge for them of, oh, this could be great. This could be great. This could be great. What do I do next? I want to help you sort through that, calm that chaos and get on a path. Maybe you've said or felt, I'm burning out. Maybe you've said the thought of using a system instead of working out of my head makes me physically uncomfortable. That one is actually a quote from one of the clients I've worked with. And I'm about to show you how to work in a system anyways, because I've helped her do that and it has helped her. So these are just some of the things. If those feel like you, these are the types of people I want to help. And how I do that, a few different offerings. So I can help organize your work. You've all this going on, whether it's your customer pipeline, your to-do list, your workflow. I like to put your head on paper, and we'll be talking more about that one. Helping prioritize all those ideas that we just talked about. Making and executing action plans is really something I'm passionate about. This is where a lot of the proven research comes in. What helps bump up the odds? And this is what we're going to talk about today. You'll get some tangible things that the goals and ideas you have in mind turn into plans that you can execute and the odds that you're actually going to realize them. And then coaching and accountability partnership. A lot of what you'll see today, I think, and generally when you work with me or work with this stuff, a lot of times I hear, oh, that's not really that complicated. And it's not. But that doesn't mean it's easy to do just because it's simple. For a lot of us, there's this disconnect between knowing what we've got to do and actually doing it. So having somebody who can help you along the way can be really effective. But today we're going to look at these two that are outlined, that put your head on paper offering and making and executing plans. So putting your head on paper, this is one for those founders or owners who, don't want to sit down and draw up a process. That's not their thing. They're like, oh, get that away from me. I love to just have those people talk at me, talk at me, just dump it. What do you have going on? And how can I then, like, as you're talking and you think we're just having a conversation, because we are, but I'm also turning that into a framework, a process map, something that I can show you when we're done, and test it against what you're saying so that you can learn your requirements for a workflow system. This is what I have a client I've been working with. She's an executive coach. She used to do it all out of her head in her email box and her calendar. It's gotten too big. She's got too many clients and she's like, I need to know, which ones have signed contracts, which ones are halfway through their, if they have 5 sessions and she's got, 20 people she's coaching in a corporate engagement. Where are all those 20 people at? Is Jane Doe done, but John Smith has not started? She's got to be able to see that. And then mapping this out helps her find opportunities to improve her business. And tying it to what Michelle said, she's looking to hire a virtual assistant. And she's like, I can't hire a virtual assistant with everything in my head. I've got to be able to get it on paper or digital or something I can actually give to them. Like Michelle mentioned, like having an operational process that they can then pick up and provide value on. And these bubbles, by the way, are just from that first conversation with me of dumping your head at me so I can put it on paper for you. Doesn't even mention what I'm about to show, which is where we do actually digitize it. This is just the first step. So I'm going to demo a software called Airtable. It's not the most complex workflow tool out there. It's meant to be very simple. I find it very effective, though, in its simplicity to organize lists, organize work, organize to-dos. So I'm going to go through what that looks like. There are certainly other options out there. My goal for today is that you can learn some very basics if you've got nothing, and you could get started with this. And if you want a deeper dive either on Airtable or some of the other options out there like Asana, Monday.com, Jira is even, it's more complex, but it's out there. Then you could reach out to me and talk through that. But today we're going to go through the basics of Airtable. So this is a home for me. It's free to sign up with a Google account, or you can create an Airtable account. There are paid features after a certain point, but everything I'll show today is all available on the free plan. So for example, let's talk about that client I mentioned who wanted her customer pipeline more organized. Where do my customers stand at any given time so that I can track them, have a view of them, and know what I need to do for follow-up? So let's just call this demo customer and click create. You can always, these days, build something with AI. We'll start from scratch, and it takes you here and you'll get a list. So I won't build this whole thing with you watching, but just so you get a sense of it, customer 1, customer 2, right? You can just add your customers. So again, this is not a robust customer relationship management tool or CRM. If you have a more complex or mature operation, you may already have something like a HubSpot, a MailChimp, a Salesforce. I'm not telling you to replace that with this. Just want to show tools if you don't already have those things or they're not working the way you want them to, some of the capabilities that are out here. So you can add your customers, and then you can add your columns. So for example, if I want to capture email addresses, I just mentioned email address here, hit enter. And now when I enter a new customer, I can enter their email address. I can do things like what stage is it at in my process, and hit single select. And then I can say, there's a prospecting stage. Maybe I have a negotiation stage. Maybe I have a working with stage, and then a done stage, for example. And so now for each of my clients, I can say this customer is in the prospecting, this is in negotiation, and this is in working with, right? And then now I'm going to flip over to the one I already have built, so you don't have to watch me do it from A to Z, but you get the idea there. You can remove these fields, just right click and delete the field. But this is one I already have built. So a few more clients in there. The fields I have are, like, let's say I have a basic offering, an intermediate offering, and an advanced offering. I can have that as a field in here with client contacts, and again, status, etc. Then what I can do is through this create option down here, there's different views, like different layouts. And this one is called Kanban. If you're not familiar, you'll see it in a second, but it's a way to kind of move work from left to right as it progresses. So for this customer, let's say I wanted to look at all my offerings. Where are they in those stages I just typed in a minute ago? So I have one customer in the prospecting stage. I'm negotiating with a bunch of them, and I'm working with a bunch of them. So very easily I can see what clients I have where, and I can also easily drag and drop these, right? So as they move along, I can say, actually, customer X, I'm now negotiating with them. I'm past prospecting, Most Alive LLC, great company I've heard. They're actually in the follow-up phase, and I can move them to the done. So I can get a snapshot of where everybody's at. And maybe, hey, my prospect list is looking a little low. It's great I'm negotiating with all these clients. Maybe I need to move some of these to working with. I want to close these deals. Maybe I want to go find 10 more prospects. I can do that. There's also more I can do. There's a lot. I won't go over everything today and overwhelm you. But for example, you can change what shows on these cards, right? Let's say I don't care who the customer or the client contact name is, but I do want their email, right? Then I can just toggle that on and off, and it changes in real time. Let's say I want to look at just my basic offerings, not all of them like I have here, and I want to see where those stand. I've created a view that does that, but I can also just click filter, add a condition, and say when the offering is basic, I want you to show me that list. And now I can see I've got 2 basic offering customers in the negotiation phase, 1 in follow-up. And then I want to clear that filter so that it comes back to all when I'm done. What else I can do, or what I did here, was make a duplicate. Just right click, duplicate view, turn that filter on and rename it. And now I don't have to change the filters on and off. I can see here's my basic. I did the same thing with intermediate. I did the same thing with advanced, right? So this is how you can use this to see where your customers are. When I want to add a new customer, I can go to all offerings, say I'm prospecting customer 1, 2, 3. I can say what offering I'm thinking I'm selling them, enter this stuff in. I'm at the prospecting stage. I could also create fields for like, what's my revenue expected? I think this is a $5,000 customer. How exciting. And where that can come into play for me is back in this master list view. I've got that field for everybody. So now I can see in my pipeline, I've got $40,500 of expected revenue, and then I can, manually reconcile. So again, if you're using QuickBooks and actual accounting software, probably better than this. If you have very basic needs and you just want to manually enter this in, this can offer that type of optionality for you. And you can also click here and download a CSV file into Excel so you can get those numbers to play with them more. So that's one. The customer pipeline view is one use case I wanted to show. What I then also did with that same client is once they got into working with, well, there's a lot of stages within working with. So I broke that out further as well. So steps within working with, I created a column, another single select, and then I just made up these dummy steps. So again, if you think back, working with me, I just say like, what's your process? You have a call with the customer. Okay, then what? Then I, deliver them, something, maybe a flyer or a welcome packet, an onboarding, right? So, okay, so you just tell me that stuff. I turn it into a digital flow like this. And then what you can do is set up another view that's based off of that field. I have a filter on that I'm going to turn off. And now I can see the stages across the top. So now instead of prospecting, negotiating, and working with, it's the same concept, but it's now my workflow. These customers are ready to onboard. These customers, this one here has completed its kickoff. So I can automatically see it's ready for the next step, call number 1. So now if I think back again, hiring a virtual assistant, this almost becomes a little bit like a standard operating procedure, at least enough to follow. So maybe I need my virtual assistant to schedule my calls with these clients when they're ready. So I can tell them, hey, monitor this kickoff complete. And every time I move somebody in there, you then set up a meeting with them for call number 1, right? So you can make it easier to onboard support for yourself and virtual assistants by getting a workflow built like this. The last one I'll show, you can do the same thing, but instead of entering, let me just clear this grouping. I'll put it back on in a moment. Instead of entering clients, I have another customer who owns a charcuterie business here in Buffalo and has opened a brick and mortar and just continues to grow and build and grow and build. And again, that typical founder, those beautiful brains that these creative, passionate people have of, it's just a million ideas a minute all the time, right? Ways to grow, ways to improve, ways to change things, new spaces, new partnerships, new collaborations. So she dumped that at me, right? So instead of here's my process, it's here's all the things I want to get done. And then we can categorize them. So in this case, it's a short to-do list of 6 items, but you get the idea. Categorized into, in this case, marketing, sales, ops, finance. For her, it was other things. And then a status. Where are they? Are they things that you're going to work on, you're going to do this week? So for her, these were the headings she chose, right? The backlog, and it's like 75 items of things she's going to get to at some point, but they're out of her head and they're now written down. Then every week we meet and we work through like, which are the 4, 5, 6 you're going to do this week. And then we check in on that at the end of the week. Which ones can we move to done? Which ones do we need to add to the list? So this is a very simple way to do it. You could also easily change these to this is to do, this is in progress. So you can easily customize this to what makes sense to you and what makes sense for your workflow. But this way you can organize your to-do list and look how easy it is to reprioritize things. So you can have it in your head, but it's tough to juggle. You can write it on paper, but then you got crossouts and this and that. Digital just gives you, the simple options to just move things all around, make them easy. And back on this grid view, one more thing I'll show, that you can group them by category. So now I have a list of, here's my marketing tasks, here's my sales tasks, ops tasks, finance tasks, right? So getting yourself organized, it takes some of that mental load and energy off of you so that you can invest that energy and mental load into those high value things like Michelle showed on her spreadsheet or on that worksheet earlier. Take that load off of the easy stuff so you can invest it in the stuff that's going to give you a bigger return. So let me know if you have any questions on the Airtable stuff. I have one more thing I'm going to show that's more, it's going to be around the strategy. Like, okay, once you've freed yourself up, you've got the time, you've got the energy, and you're ready to set some strategic goals and hit them. Give you some basic proven tips to help you hit those goals is what we're going to do next. So I will keep half an eye out in case any questions pop up. We can also pause at the end for more questions. But I would ask you this question right here. Within reason, if you could do something to improve your odds of getting what you want, would you do it? And you don't have to tell me literally, but at least think for yourself. Hopefully a simple yes will suffice here. You can determine what within reason is. But there are things that do improve your odds based on research that's out there. Just setting goals in the first place. Some studies have shown you're 10 times more likely to achieve them. Writing them down, 42% more likely. Breaking them into actionable tasks and sharing that progress with others, you're 76% more likely to achieve them. So if you want to achieve something, guys, here's some tips. Get there 40% faster if you set time-bound goals and share weekly progress. And then in at least one study, you are 95% likely to achieve what you set out to do if you do all these things with an accountability partner. So why do only 8% of goal setters achieve their goals? They don't do a lot of this stuff, right? Again, I mentioned earlier, some of the stuff is not that complicated. It's not magical. And you go, really? That's all? But the question is, and I ask myself this question, do you do it? Okay, that makes sense, but have I written my goals down? Do I break them into tasks? Do I have an accountability partner? I think most people set goals, but don't do a lot of the other steps. For example, only 3% of goal setters in some surveys have said that they write their goals down. So 42% more likely if they do it, but only 3% of people do it. So what percent do you want to be in? So right now we're going to do a little interactive activity. It's just a few simple steps to put those things into practice, and you'll be on your way to having a goal, a bit of a strategic plan. Now, when it comes to strategy, it needs to be customized to you, to your business, right? I think of strategy as what are we trying to accomplish with our business, and how are we going to get there? So that needs to be more of a conversation. But the structure of once we decide that and how are we going to execute it, it's going to look like this. So write down some goal you have, whether it's to follow up on this meeting, whether it's to do something in your personal life, whether it's something else you've already got. Take out a piece of paper, do it on your laptop, whatever works for you. Put it in your notes app on your phone. Write down a goal, remembering it will make you more likely to achieve it. And then move right into step 2. Write down at least 3 things that will move you towards that goal, right? You got to have the steps to get yourself there, to break it down. It takes some of the intimidation out of it, right? If it's this big, scary goal, how are you gonna make it happen? I like to think of this one as you're going to cook a meal for somebody. Maybe it's a date, maybe it's your family that you're trying to amuse, whatever. What are the steps to break that down? You got to make a list. You got to find a recipe, make a list for the grocery store, go grocery shopping, come back, prep, cook, serve. Maybe at some point you need to invite, right? So those are your 5 or 6 steps. Again, super simple, obvious, practical, but think that way for that goal you just wrote down. What are 3 things you can do, actionably do, that you need to do, in fact, to reach that goal? And then number 3, set due dates for each of those tasks and an intention. So again, you'll get there faster if you do this. And this intention, if you've read the book Atomic Habits, you may have seen this. Hopefully you did if you read it closely enough. But there's also, somewhere I read, there's over 90 studies that have shown when we do this intention setting, it makes us more likely to do these things. It plants in our brain the specifics, gives us that visualized, clear path to get there. So this person in the example wants to practice their guitar more. They say, I will practice guitar and then you give a location in the living room, and you give a time and day at 9 a.m. on Saturdays. So for you and your steps, what is your intention that you're going to set? I will pick my recipe by 3 p.m. tomorrow in the living room on my laptop. Great. Like even just saying that and writing that down gives your brain a path to do it that takes some of the obstacles out of the way. And if you want a bonus, once you set that intention, use technology to your advantage. Again, take some of the mental load off, put it in your phone right now while you're thinking about it, right? So if this guitar person, 9 a.m. on Saturday, go block your calendar for 9 a.m. on Saturday. Put it in the phone, put it in your calendar. Again, it's not rocket science. It's about taking the steps that will make things easier for you to do and to accomplish. So you've written your goal down. You have broken it down into at least 3 actionable steps. I know we're going a little quick here, but you can take this with you. We'll send this after, and you can use this anytime you want to set a goal. They just keep working and working. And then for those actionable tasks, when are you going to have it done by? Where are you going to do it? What are you going to accomplish? Break it down. And then step 4, who's your accountability partner going to be? So again, you're very, very more likely to achieve it, that goal you set, if you have somebody who you check in with and they hold you accountable. That is a service I offer because it is so valuable. It's part of what I do. It's not all that I do, as you've seen, and you don't need me to do it. You can pick someone else in your life if they're going to actually effectively be an accountability partner for you. But if not, reach out and we can help. So these aren't the only things that help you achieve goals, but these are some of my favorites and some of the most effective I've seen out there. I think I had another slide, but it may have gone away. Nope, there it is. They just went out of order. So you can end up with something like this. Here's my goal, here's my accountability partner, and then the intentions and the tasks I'm going to do. And again, this can correlate to your strategic plan for your business once you have more time and can get to more of a level of how we can work through the prioritization to what's most important for you. That becomes your top line goal. How do you break it down? How are you going to hold yourself to it? Those types of things. So if you did find this valuable, I would love you to keep using it. Again, I want this to be something that you can take away from this call and have found value in. Pete, I'm glad to see that you think this is great in the comments. Thanks so much. And again, you can use it on your next goal, your next strategy, your 6-month plan. These are components that are proven to help you. So use it up. Email me about working together one-on-one or with your team. My email address is there, dan@most-alive.com. My website is there for more info. And really the point of running this business that I do and the way I do it, what's really important to me is the reason it's called Most Alive. I want to help people do more of whatever makes them feel most alive. So for you, whether you work with me directly or not, that is my wish for you, is I hope you do whatever makes you feel most alive. So if you have any questions, Michelle and I will be here. Otherwise, I will stop sharing and just hang out. And thanks everybody for watching. Hope you got something good out of it.
I got to set some intentions here. Yeah. Well, so we're going to wrap up, and I don't know if I see any other comments. I know LinkedIn Live it feels like it's actually a 20-30 second lag because I've noticed that it just been behind. So this is last call for questions before Dan and I wrap up on this LinkedIn Live event. And, we appreciate everyone for joining. And again, a lot of this was hosted and produced with my VA. She's been amazing. So she's always in the back scene. But again, you do have to set up operations and systems in place before you have somebody who can come on. And I think a huge piece of what I've learned is it's all in your head. And that's why a lot of times you're like, I can do it better. I can do all this stuff and I can do it. But at the end of the day, if you want to scale your business, you yourself don't scale. And that's the problem. And so if you want to scale your business and scale you, that's where you need systems and process in place. And so reach out to me, reach out to Dan as well, in terms of helping you kind of partner on a more strategic level. And this LinkedIn Live recording will be live, meaning it will still be on LinkedIn. So if you ever have to access it, I know Dan and I are both on LinkedIn, so you can also connect with us on there. But we will send out post emails to everybody with the worksheets. And yeah, if there's anything else, happy to answer. But I think that's about it. I appreciate your time, Dan, and hopefully this is helpful for everybody else out there. And we're just happy to kind of share what we've learned over the years and our knowledge and and gone through the growing pains. That's probably the big piece. It's like stumbling and falling and growing, going through all those growing pains.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us, when we get to this space, we found what's worked for us, and then you find kind of your niche and you just want to share that back to other people. And if you can make a living doing it, sure. So that's where we're at. I think that's where a lot of the people on the call are, is trying to turn their passions and strengths into what they do. And this is what Michelle and I do. We hope it was helpful today to get a start, those first steps. We'll send, like she said, we'll send some things out, her worksheet, and I can send that goals template out as well. And then from there, yeah, keep going
Yeah,
with
for
those. And if
sure.
you want to keep going with
All right,
us, you know
appreciate
where to
it.
find
We will
us,
be
and we'll
cutting
be happy to
the
help.
LinkedIn
But
live.
thanks everyone for being here, and
Dan, you
thanks
should stay
Michelle for
on.
partnering with me.